Wealthy individuals have unlocked a specific formula for accumulating net worth that the vast majority of society completely misses. If you study the habits of highly successful people, you quickly realize that their financial dominance has very little to do with luck or an inheritance. Instead, the wealthy approach the very concept of money from a fundamentally different psychological angle than the average earner. What unites the upper class is a distinct, unbreakable mindset regarding how capital should be utilized. This cognitive framework is so radically different from normal thinking that simply adopting these mental models can completely alter the trajectory of your financial life. The way you view a dollar bill, the way you view a paycheck, and the way you view a purchase all dictate whether you will spend your life struggling or thriving. Today, we are going to break down 5 essential mindset shifts that draw a hard line between the affluent and those who remain financially paralyzed. By internalizing these 5 psychological pillars, you can immediately begin operating with the exact same financial clarity as a multimillionaire. The very first psychological shift that serves as the foundation for building true wealth is deeply understanding the hard boundary between an asset and a liability. This is a core financial principle that radically transforms how you evaluate every single transaction you make. The vast majority of consumers wander through life completely blind to this distinction, simply purchasing items for the temporary thrill of acquiring something new. But the reality of personal finance is incredibly binary. Every single item you purchase absolutely must fall into one of 2 distinct categories. First, it is an item that actively deposits money into your bank account as time goes on. Or second, it is an item that continuously drains capital from your bank account long after the initial purchase. An asset is a tireless worker that generates value, while a liability is a persistent leak in your financial bucket. Until you can look at a price tag and instantly categorize it as a wealth builder or a wealth destroyer, you will always struggle to retain the money you earn. Let us look at a highly common real-world scenario to illustrate this trap. Imagine a situation where someone is deciding whether to upgrade their lifestyle by purchasing a luxury SUV with an $80,000 retail price tag. The average consumer evaluates this decision strictly through the lens of monthly cash flow. They look at their paycheck, calculate the monthly financing cost, and conclude that since they can cover the payment, the vehicle is highly affordable. But this is exactly where the financial trap snaps shut. If you have been following our philosophy here at Kyle Invests, you already know that vehicles are notorious for catastrophic depreciation. Acquiring a brand new luxury car is effectively identical to setting a massive pile of cash on fire. The vehicle acts as a massive liability. It actively bleeds your wealth every single month through high insurance premiums, expensive maintenance routines, premium fuel costs, and relentless depreciation. That $80,000 is totally locked into a depreciating metal box that guarantees you will have significantly less net worth in the future. Now, picture a scenario where you take that exact same $80,000 and deploy it with an investor's mindset instead of a consumer's mindset. Rather than financing a depreciating luxury SUV, you utilize those funds as a robust down payment on a solid residential rental property. Immediately, that physical real estate begins functioning as a financial engine, generating a steady stream of rental income month after month. Capital is now continuously flowing into your bank account without your daily physical labor. That is the definitive hallmark of a true asset. Wealthy individuals have mastered this simple wealth equation. They relentlessly acquire vehicles of wealth that multiply their capital, aggressively avoiding shiny objects that drain their resources. Before you swipe your card for any major lifestyle upgrade, you must pause and ask yourself, is this purchase going to actively deposit cash into my accounts, or is it going to slowly bleed my net worth? When you start evaluating your smartphone, your wardrobe, and your living space through the strict asset test, your entire financial trajectory shifts toward prosperity. Once you train your brain to clearly separate wealth-generating assets from wealth-draining liabilities, you will inevitably begin analyzing the actual mechanics of how you generate your income. This brings us to the second massive psychological shift, completely redefining your relationship with the resource of time. Time is the ultimate finite currency, yet society conditions us to directly trade our irreplaceable hours for a flat monetary rate. This creates what is known as the ultimate time trap. The standard routine is incredibly predictable. Wake up, commute, get compensated for exactly 8 hours of labor, return home, zone out to streaming services, and repeat the cycle endlessly. Millions of people resent their daily grind, enduring the work week solely to experience brief moments of freedom on the weekends. When they want to increase their income, their only strategy is to sacrifice more of their precious life by begging for overtime or picking up extra shifts. But this system has a hard ceiling. Since there are only 24 hours in a single day, your earning potential is mathematically capped by your physical exhaustion. The affluent are obsessed with permanently escaping this hourly limitation. While there are certainly highly compensated professionals, such as specialized surgeons or elite corporate attorneys, who trade their time for a massive hourly rate, true wealth is built differently. The financially elite dedicate their mental energy to engineering systems where their money works tirelessly on their behalf, entirely removing their physical presence from the earning equation. Instead of constantly asking how to log more hours on the clock, the wealthy ask a fundamentally different question. How can I engineer a reliable cash flow while I am fast asleep? This is the core philosophy driving the massive push toward passive income generation. The goal is to construct robust financial machines that operate autonomously. This could take the form of commercial real estate producing steady rent, a scalable business equipped with a dedicated management team, a heavily funded brokerage account generating quarterly dividend payouts, or digital software that can be sold infinite times without any additional manufacturing costs. To break free from the constraints of the time trap, you must start implementing actionable systems today. First, meticulously audit your current work week. Track the exact hours you sacrifice to your employer and calculate your true hourly earning rate. Once you establish this baseline, challenge yourself to build a side operation that can autonomously replace a fraction of that active income. In the early stages of any career, trading time for a paycheck is practically unavoidable. However, strategically stockpiling early earnings into passive vehicles accelerates your path to freedom. You do not need to abruptly resign tomorrow. Launch a lean digital venture requiring just a few focused hours on weekends. Before we cover how the wealthy handle financial fear, take a quick second to like this video and subscribe to Kyle Invests. I am curious, what is one active step you are taking this month to build a passive income stream? Drop your specific strategy in the comments below. As your new systems generate initial profits, aggressively reinvest those returns to trigger explosive compound growth. However, you must realize that even the most meticulously designed passive income systems will inevitably collapse if they are built on a foundation of psychological fear. This leads us directly to the third vital mindset shift, transitioning from a paralyzing scarcity mindset to an empowering abundance mindset. The way you internally view the global supply of wealth dictates exactly how you interact with financial risk. Consider two individuals earning the exact same annual salary, yet operating with completely opposing views on capital. The individual plagued by a scarcity mindset constantly operates under the terrifying assumption that money is incredibly rare, aggressively hoarding every penny out of sheer panic. When presented with a mathematically sound investment opportunity, their internal alarm bells scream at them to reject it. They equate any form of financial exposure with guaranteed ruin. Consequently, they lock their capital away in low-yield savings accounts or literally hide physical cash, allowing the silent tax of inflation to slowly destroy their purchasing power over the decades. Operating from a baseline of scarcity creates severe logical blind spots and highly irrational financial behaviors. People crippled by the fear of poverty often develop a deeply ingrained habit of rejecting opportunities out of a misguided desire for absolute safety. This fear-based hoarding prevents them from ever participating in the exponential growth of the global markets. Ironically, this obsessive desire to avoid losing money guarantees that their wealth will slowly evaporate as the cost of living relentlessly increases. Alternatively, the overwhelming stress generated by a scarcity mindset can actually trigger the exact opposite behavior: reckless, impulsive spending. The psychological burden of constantly worrying about future financial collapse drives some individuals to blow their paychecks on immediate, short-term gratifications simply to cope with the anxiety. They assume the money will disappear anyway, so they might as well enjoy a fleeting moment of pleasure. Both extreme hoarding and stress-induced binge spending are devastating symptoms of a broken financial framework that guarantees lifelong economic struggle. In stark contrast, highly successful individuals operate on the absolute certainty of an abundance mindset. They fundamentally believe that capital is constantly flowing all around them and that the global economy is packed with unlimited, untapped opportunities. Because they view money simply as a flexible tool rather than a scarce survival resource, they confidently deploy their capital into the markets. They do not invest recklessly, but rather strategically, recognizing that the most dangerous financial risk of all is remaining stagnant. They understand that sitting on the sidelines out of fear guarantees a loss of purchasing power, while intelligent investing creates generational wealth. Individuals anchored in abundance gladly sacrifice a trivial purchase today because they clearly see how that capital will compound into massive financial security in the future. This unwavering confidence in the growth of their assets creates a highly profitable, self-fulfilling cycle. The next time you instinctively tell yourself that you cannot afford something, completely flip the narrative. Ask yourself how you can engineer a way to afford it, instantly rewiring your brain to hunt for lucrative solutions. That empowering abundance mindset transitions perfectly into the fourth psychological shift, which completely dictates how you view your daily spending. The financial divide here is incredibly sharp. The average earner looks at their bank statement and sees a list of expenses, while the wealthy look at capital and see a catalog of potential investments. Think about what happens when you hand over $1,000. When that transaction occurs, two entirely different internal dialogues can take place depending on your financial programming. The standard consumer watches that money leave their account and thinks, well, there goes $1,000 that I will never see again. They view the transaction as a permanent loss of capital, but a millionaire makes the exact same $1,000 transaction and immediately asks, how do I take this money and multiply it into $10,000? They do not view the capital as gone. They view it as deployed. They are constantly looking for the hidden leverage in every single transaction, actively forcing their dollars to go out into the market, perform a job, and return with a profit. To truly understand this investment-oriented mindset, let us look at a highly practical scenario. Imagine you are presented with an opportunity to attend an exclusive high-level industry conference. However, the admission ticket costs a staggering $1,200. To the vast majority of society, that price tag sounds absolutely absurd. The average individual instantly calculates the opportunity cost in terms of immediate consumption. They will justify rejecting the ticket by telling themselves, I could buy a brand new gaming console, cover my groceries for an entire month, and still have cash left over instead of wasting $1,200 on a single weekend event. Their brain strictly calculates the value of the money based on what physical goods they could consume right now. They are completely blinded by the upfront cost, entirely missing the long-term strategic value. This is exactly why the middle class struggles to break through into higher income brackets. They prioritize short-term physical comfort over long-term intellectual and professional expansion. Now flip the script and analyze that exact same $1,200 conference ticket through the lens of a highly successful wealth builder. They do not see an expensive weekend, they see a concentrated room of potential leverage. They recognize that all it takes is one single conversation with the right person to completely alter the trajectory of their career. That $1,200 is not a sunk cost, it is a calculated premium paid to bypass years of trial and error. They might meet a future business partner, secure a high-level mentor, or discover a totally new strategy that generates 100 times their initial investment. The capital spent is simply the entry fee required to access a higher tier of opportunity. Yes, there is always a chance the event yields nothing, but the asymmetric upside makes it a highly intelligent financial gamble. Wealthy individuals consistently purchase access, knowledge, and relationships because they understand that human capital and specialized information provide the highest return on investment available in the modern economy. The ultimate takeaway here is that you must ruthlessly ask yourself the ROI question before swiping your card. Before any significant transaction, pause and ask, what is the exact return on this investment? If you completely freeze up and cannot clearly articulate how that purchase will improve your future, then you are simply spending cash for the sake of spending. Naturally, humans need to consume, and enjoying your hard-earned money is perfectly fine. However, a highly effective practice is actively auditing how much capital is burning through lifestyle expenses versus how much is being strategically deployed into your future self. Here is a challenge you can start immediately. For the next 7 days, Evaluate every single purchase you make over $100. Force yourself to clearly label it as an expense or an investment. Writing this down on paper forces radical accountability. You will be absolutely shocked at how this minor psychological friction instantly rewires your impulsive buying habits and redirects your capital toward meaningful growth. It is crucial to recognize that even if you master the difference between an asset and a liability, your financial architecture will still crumble if your expectations are misaligned. This directly introduces the fifth and perhaps most critical mindset shift: discarding short-term impulses in favor of long-term strategic thinking. If you can train your brain to resist the biological temptation of an immediate fleeting reward, the mathematical payoff you receive later in life is incredibly disproportionate. This concept is universally known as delayed gratification, and it is the absolute cornerstone of generational wealth building. Our modern consumer culture is heavily engineered to prioritize instant dopamine. Everywhere you look, you are aggressively encouraged to buy now, consume immediately, and finance the cost over time. But the financially elite operate on an entirely different timeline. They willingly absorb slight discomfort or restrict their lifestyle today, knowing with absolute certainty that this discipline is currently buying them total economic sovereignty for their future decades. Let us look at the silent killer of middle-class wealth: the normalized daily microtransactions. Consider that casual $15 you effortlessly spend every single afternoon without a second of hesitation. It might be a premium iced coffee, a fast food lunch, or a completely random impulse purchase from an online retailer. Every single time you subconsciously choose that immediate hit of satisfaction, instead of investing that capital, you are actively sabotaging your future net worth. Now, it is incredibly common to hear people dismiss this by saying, "Come on, it is only $15. You have to enjoy your life." But that exact rationalization is the defining characteristic of a permanently broke mindset. People trapped in this mental cycle will systematically prioritize feeling good right now over constructing genuine financial stability later. They willingly trade their long-term economic freedom for 5 minutes of flavor or a temporary dopamine spike, completely failing to understand the devastating compounding effect of those daily financial leaks. To fully grasp why those small amounts are so critical, you need to understand the sheer mathematics of the wealth multiplier. There is a deeply fascinating metric heavily discussed in financial circles. Every single dollar invested at age 20 possesses the potential to become $88 by traditional retirement age. This means a young adult has a literal wealth multiplier of 88 attached to their capital. If you assume a historical 10% annualized return compounded monthly over 45 years, the math is absolute. That means a simple $15 lunch today is actually costing your future self over $1,300 in unearned wealth. Even if you want to model a far more conservative trajectory and assume only an 8% annual return, that single dollar still transforms into roughly $32 over the same period. The numbers simply do not lie. Giving your money decades to aggressively compound is the ultimate cheat code for the wealthy. This is exactly why embracing delayed gratification today transforms into extreme financial abundance tomorrow. This principle of delayed gratification extends far beyond just stock market returns. It is a vital tool for navigating complex life and career decisions. Whenever you find yourself paralyzed by a tough choice, the ultimate strategy is to forcibly stretch your time horizon out to 10, 20, or even 30 years. Suddenly, the correct path illuminates itself. Consider a classic career dilemma. You are offered a highly stressful, high-paying corporate role versus a slightly lower-paying role that offers incredible mentorship and the opportunity to learn highly scalable business skills. The broke mindset jumps immediately at the higher upfront salary to fund a flashier lifestyle right now. But if you zoom out 2 decades, the individual who chose the lower-paying role built an elite skill set, eventually launching their own business and scaling their income infinitely. When you evaluate your choices through a massive, multi-decade lens, you permanently stop optimizing for temporary comfort and start designing a life of true durability. Your future self will profoundly thank you. To effectively master this long-term perspective, there is a powerful psychological framework you can utilize, commonly referred to as Solomon's paradox. Business strategist Alex Hormozy frequently highlights this deeply fascinating human flaw. The concept is named after the ancient King Solomon, who was legendary across the world for dispensing brilliant, unparalleled wisdom to others. Yet, when it came to his own personal life and decisions, his judgment was notoriously disastrous. This paradox reveals a universal truth about human psychology. We are exceptionally gifted at solving other people's complex problems because we are completely emotionally detached from their outcomes. However, when we face our own exact same issues, our logic gets hijacked by fear, ego, and short-term desires. If you simply paused, stepped outside yourself, and flawlessly executed the exact advice you give to your closest friends, your financial and personal growth would absolutely skyrocket overnight. The challenge is learning how to bypass your own emotional interference. You can actively neutralize this paradox by practicing a highly effective mental exercise, conducting a strategic advisory session with an 85-year-old version of yourself. When you are faced with a difficult financial or career crossroad, aggressively project your mind decades into the future. Ask your 85-year-old self what the correct move is right now. That older, wiser version of you does not care about looking rich on social media or indulging in a fleeting impulse purchase. They only care about security, legacy, and compounding success. This hypothetical internal dialogue strips away all of your current anxieties and instantly clarifies the stark difference between a terrible short-term distraction and a brilliant long-term investment. By permanently adopting these elevated thought patterns, you fundamentally rewire your reality from scarcity and frustration to abundance and extreme wealth. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown valuable, don't forget to like and subscribe. I would love to know, what is the single best financial advice your future self would give you today? Drop your answer in the comments below. See you in the next video, and remember, stay smart with your money. Take care.